On October 2nd, 2002, Stock Car Racing lost another driver as ARCA Racing driver Eric Martin was killed in a practice crash prior to the start of the 2002 ARCA Race at Charlotte. An incident that could have very easily been preventable, and today we're going to tell the whole story. This is the Eric Martin ARCA tragedy. So who was Eric Martin? Eric Martin was born on February 6, 1969, a native of Hickson, Tennessee. Eric Martin grew up in go-karts before moving up to stock car ranks, where he mostly raced as a journeyman, working on his own race cars and racing at the local short tracks in the Tennessee state. Eric's personal life consisted of his wife Tammy, who worked on the U.S. Navy USS Gettysburg, and having 2 kids along the way as well. Martin would join the Wayne Hickson's Tennessee-based ARCA team in 1998 after stopping into the shop one day, asking for directions, and would later take to the track as a mechanic and pit crew member. By all accounts, Eric was a well-liked, hard-working crew member who got along with everyone and would time to time crack jokes with the other Hickson racing crew members. After 3 years of working as a behind-the-scenes role for the organization, Eric would finally make his debut behind the wheel in the 2001 race at Winchester, albeit it was a starting part, starting 28th, running 1 lap, and finishing 30th. In 2001, he would run 3 numbers, number 56, 75, and 91, running 22 of the 25 races, start and parking 20 of them. The only 2 full races he would run would be Nashville and Talladega, where his best finish of the season would be at the Nashville race, finishing 16th. In total, Eric completed just 308 of the 2,895 laps which he was set to compete in, and had a final points finish of 17th. Whether he was running the full race or not, Eric always was happy to be there and had a smile on his face. During Eric's time in 2001, he was also the head crew member for his car, looking after the mechanical side and doing any body work if needed. After all, he was there to help fund Hickson's primary entry, the number 23 for driver Ron Cox. For 2002, Eric was scheduled to run again full-time for Hickson in the number 56 entry, this time both as a start and park field filler entry and a full race ride when sponsorship was found. Eric's season, however, didn't go very well, as 2 straight DNQs to start the season at Daytona and Atlanta would hinder performance. 2002 would hold some great stories from people who knew Eric that I was able to receive. After the race at Pocono, Eric had the exhaust plate that needed repairs, so he welded a patch in. The next race was at Michigan. On lap 87, though, Eric blew out his right rear and severely damaged the right side of his car, nearly totaling it in the process. While the caution was out, however, his teammate Ron Cox was running top 10 at the time, came on his radio saying his car was getting hot. Comes in to find that there was a hole in the grill, and well, there was a piece of metal shaped just like the patch that Eric had put on his car. So Eric had managed to take out both team cars in just one wreck, even though it wasn't even meant to do that. 2 races later at South Boston, the Hickson crew stayed at the local Holiday Inn Express of Reedsville, and instead of paying for their rooms and money, instead just put their logo on the car for the race. At the Salem race later in the year, Eric was told by officials to watch his racing line. And ever the gentleman himself, Eric came on the radio very apologetic and ran a safe line for the rest of the race. Following the race at South Boston, Kentucky was up next. Martin had changed his car number from 56 to 2, but had had an incident with a Florida police officer. So at Kentucky, the Hickson crew pulled a prank on Eric. When Eric went into his trailer to change to his fire suit and get ready for practice, they put a Florida Highway Patrol decal on his race car. He didn't have any sponsors for the race, so he was surprised to see something on the car, and when he came to get in it for practice, he and the team all had a good laugh out of it. By race 22 at Charlotte, however, he was still having a good season than 2001, running more full races. Despite the 3 DNQs, including the previous race at Talladega, Martin had finished 8 of the last 14 races, with a best of 14th on the DuQuoin dirt track, and was sitting 20th in points. Until the fateful day on October 9th. Coming into Charlotte, 52 cars were on the entry list, One of these entries was the 75 of Deborah Renshaw, running for the Bobcat racing team. Renshaw was a controversial figure at her stomping grounds, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, in Nashville, Tennessee herself. News reports spun several stories as to why this was true, though she had proven worth in ARCA up to that point. Practice had just started after 12:30 on that day. Martin, who was driving his number 2 1999 Chevrolet Monte Carlo in the race, left pit road for practice at around 1 p.m. It's unclear what lap he was on when all of a sudden, off of turn 4, Martin's car appeared to either blow a tire or suffer a mechanical issue. Either way, his car was damaged and sitting by the wall just past turn 4. From a crew member, Martin had come on the radio saying, "I'm all right." It was never clear whether he had started to unbuckle or not, as conflicting reports from crew members and the media stated that he either was or was not unbuckling. When
Martin's battered car slid to a stop off turn 4. The track caution lights came on at start-finish. The next 3 cars on the scene are all traveling at high speed, yet they managed to avoid Martin. Finally, nearly 15 seconds after the accident starts, Renshaw is unable to avoid the stationary car. Now, like the others, Renshaw clearly had no idea the car was there. On Saturday, NASCAR announced a new rule calling for spotters to be in their designated stand every time cars are on track. ARCA is considering a similar rule.
Now, the video you're about to see is graphic. Martin's car spun in turn 4 and backed into the outside wall. His car came to a stop, and he appeared to be moving around when his car was then struck on the driver's side by a car driven by Deborah Renshaw at an estimated 160 miles an hour. That impact occurred more than 8 seconds after Martin's car had come to a complete stop. Martin's car was destroyed as the impact tore away the engine and left a part of the wheel assembly lying on the racetrack. The 25-year-old Renshaw was transported to a local hospital and was alert and talking and is listed in fair condition.
Although 3 cars had managed to avoid the number 2 of Martin, 16 seconds later after the initial impact, the number 75 of Deborah Renshaw was coming at full song at over 160 miles per hour and clobbered Eric's driver's side. Martin was killed instantly from the impact, while Renshaw was stable and had minor injuries. From a Hickson crew member, Tim Fish, "I was there as a crew member for Eric. I remember that day like yesterday. I was talking to him on the radio. He was fixing to climb out of the car. The door bars, however, penetrated his body, so it had nothing to do with unbuckling the seatbelts that killed him. He was a great person, and it was a sad day for Hickson Motorsports." After the crash, the engine and part of the wheel assembly sat on the track as the wreckage was lifted onto a tow truck and covered then with a blue tarp. Said driver Ron Hornaday, "It took 6 wreckers to take all the parts out. Anytime you have an engine and pieces of the car laying on the track, you know it's bad." Hornaday also went on to say, "The first hit, I guess he just lost his breath. The second one, however, a driver is never ready for that, and a second impact is the one that got him. It's nobody's fault, it's just a brutal sport sometimes." Martin's death was the 15th at Lowe's, the 8th involving a stock car driver, as just last year the Blaze Alexander was killed in a race in that famous crash with Kerry Earnhardt. Said spokesman Jerry Gappens, "There was no sign of life when the medical staff arrived on the scene, and it's believed that the second impact killed him instantly. It was a violent crash into the driver's side compartment area, and that is very, very rare. Eric was simply crushed in the wreckage." Qualifying was canceled and the field was set by owner points for Thursday night's race. Martin's team tearfully circled the back of their hauler, with crew members wiping their eyes as they talked on their cell phones. Renshaw's truck was packed up as well. The back door was pulled shut. A dozen drivers went to the track's media center and stood behind ARCA President Ron Drager as a show of support. Said Frank Kimball, "A few of us talked in the trailer and wondered what we could do. So we decided to come in here because we are a family in ARCA, and that is the best way we could show it. This is a tough sport, but heck, it's just part of it." Eric's teammate, the number 23 entry of Ron Cox, was also withdrawn, and the entire Hickson team sadly loaded up and left Charlotte. I had the chance to ask driver Jamie Mosley, who was on track just ahead of Eric at the time of the crash, some questions regarding the incident. Question I asked, did you yourself see part of the accident and the wreckage? Jamie's answer, we had just gone out onto the track. I came off of turn 2 and went down the backstretch. As I was heading into turn 3, I looked in my mirror and saw Eric starting down the backstretch. By the time I had made it back to turn 1 and 2, my spotter said a bad wreck on the front stretch. My spotter then said, stop on the backstretch. You don't need to see this. I did see the wreckage though. It was horrific. My next question was then, did the memory of that crash affect your racing career onwards? Jamie's answer, I'll never forget that day. I can't say it changed the way I drove. Thereafter though, I guess you just hide that stuff away. My next question was then, was it hard going back to Charlotte the next year? Jamie's answer, yes, going on, it was always on your mind. Just the association with the place and something that horrible. My next question was then, when you got back to the garage, what was the mood like? Jamie's answer, it had already been a bad week for everyone overall. All the rain delays and then the accident. No one really understood what to do or how to feel. We were all just very sad. My next question was then, was it hard racing just 2 days later, and especially driving by the spot where it had happened? Jamie's answer, yeah, for sure. Really puts things in perspective, and it's easily to die doing what you love. Moving on, Deborah Renshaw's number 75 entry was also withdrawn. However, the team of Ron Hornaday Jr., who had originally entered a number 54 car, switched to number 75 and bought out the 75's owner points in order to make the field. The race was rained out on Thursday and was run on Friday instead. Chad Blount, who started second in the race, led 39 of the 67 laps and would go on to win the event. But by that point, everybody just wanted to load up and go home. Eric Martin was just 33 years old. He was survived by his wife Tammy and his 2 kids, Brian and Matt. In the aftermath of the wreck, a lot of people took issue as to why Renshaw either didn't see Martin's wreck or did not avoid him in any way. Many fans criticized Renshaw, saying if their 3 cars ahead of her avoided him, why couldn't Renshaw, especially with a 16-second gap from the start of the crash to the collision? Said driver Ron Hornaday, I don't know if she didn't see him or not, but I came through the turn and saw his car just sitting there and had to make a quick decision to avoid him. Spotters were not required at the time to climb onto the grandstand roof during practice to help a driver navigate the track. Instead, the spotters watched the race from the top of the haulers inside the field, which gave them several blind spots. Number car 75 owner Bob Schatt, a 3-time ARCA Series champion, was the spotter at the time for the 75 of Renshaw and was on top of the team hauler. ARCA president Ron Drager would not speculate if he saw Martin's car or not. Many Winston Cup crew chiefs did state that it's hard to see some of the points of the track from the top of the haulers. It was said that coming off of turn 4 can be a little blinding, and people mixed at the fact that with Martin driving a white car, Renshaw hitting debris and oil, it was just an unfortunate set of bad circumstances. Wayne Hickson, Martin's team owner, said that he was working with the driver about 4 years ago, and they had run in all the ARCA races this year. He was learning real good with the car, and he either gotten some oil or blew a right front tire, Hickson said. He hit the wall, he came on the radio and said, I'm all right, and then the 75 car just came around and broadsided him. It was just a racing accident. That's all. ARCA official Ron Drager insisted the cars are safe and the series strictly monitors drivers before clearing them to run on super speedways. Lowe's is a 1.5-mile tri-oval, and Drager said drivers must pass a monitored test before they can run races here. ARCA driver Frank Kimmel said this is a proving ground. This is where we learn to race, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I have a complete confidence that this is a safe and we can be safe here. It's just a part of our sport. Even though we do the best we can to keep these cars safe, it just goes to show you never know if you're ever going to get out of that car. In the end, ARCA then mandated forward each car, whether it be a start and park or not, have a spotter on top of the roof. And even today, that rule still stands. And each car must have a mandated yellow warning light illuminated when there was a track caution, so that way this accident would never happen again. Both Bob Schaap Motorsports and Hickson Motorsports would continue to race in ARCA until the later 2010s. Renshaw was not blamed overall for the incident, and although she ended up with 4 pins in her left ankle, continued to race in ARCA and NASCAR until she made her final start in 2007. This October will mark 20 years since the incident, and while the event as a whole is somewhat forgotten by a lot of fans, many crew members who were or are still involved in the series today will never forget that fateful crash in October of 2002. Eric Martin's crash and legacy will never be forgotten. I want to give a shout out to the special people and news articles for help with this documentary. The Associated Press, Seibaru at wordpress.com, WikiPedia, ARCA Racing Facebook Memories, Jamie Mosley, Daniel Rainkin, Jeremy Curtis, Greg Stuart. Thank you very much for help with this documentary. And thank you guys for checking out the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. And I hope you guys continue to stay fans of the ARCA Racing series presented by Menards. Thank you guys, and take care.